So yes, I think these 2 evenings are called something like the Path of Total Transformation, and we're aiming to place meditation in the context of the Buddhist path, the whole Buddhist path. I'm going to start with an image. It's not a Buddhist image. It's from the poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and he offers an image of an insect feeding on a leaf that takes on the colour of that leaf. And what he says is, the heart should have fed upon the truth as insects on a leaf, till it be tinged with the colour and show its food in the minutest fibre. Yeah. So this image that whatever the insect is eating, I don't know what kind of insect he's thinking of, but anyway, it's a lovely poetic image that this insect. I sort of imagine this bright green leaf, maybe, and a caterpillar with translucent skin becoming greener and greener as it eats this leaf. And the image suggests a lot of things to me about the process. Great to come in, welcome. There are quite a few cushions. If anyone put your hand up and you'll see a space, if there's a space near you. Great. Yeah, the image suggests a lot of things about the process and possibility of transformation. So I'll just draw some of those out. Well, first of all, he's talking about the heart. So the heart, he says, the heart should have fed upon the truth. So he talks about the heart. It's not just the mind. It's not just thinking about the truth, musing on the truth. There's something very immediate about this emotionally associated organ, the heart. And actually in Buddhism we talk about the heart and the mind, and they're not really different. So already we're sort of away from abstraction, and he's also saying that this can be total. This truth can be total, totally absorbed. So not just something that we think about, not just something that we adorn ourselves with or sort of hold in front of us and examine abstractly. It's not a part of us or a segment of us. It's in our veins and in the minutest fibre. And by that, the image suggests to me that truth and us become not separate. They're not two different things that have united. They're both the same. They are the same thing. And that somehow truth, in order to get to that point, we need to make truth, and that's not clear yet what kind of truth we're talking about, but that we need to make it our food and our sustenance, so that we can be completely coloured by it. So to do that, we need something whole. We're talking about a whole. Sorry, I'm really hot. Let's take this off. It was cold earlier. Actually, a team person, could you get me some water? Thank you. Yes. So we're talking about this quality of totalness or wholeness. And I'm really interested that the word whole and holy have the same root. Yeah, so the word whole with a W and holy as in sacred, they come from the same root, and it indicates something. I think it indicates something that that we may start. It indicates an incompleteness. I think often we start the spiritual path. I certainly did. I didn't quite know what I was looking for or what was lacking in my life. That's great. Thank you, Britta. But I definitely knew that I felt incomplete. I didn't know what that completion meant, where to look for it a lot when I was younger. But incompleteness seems to describe something about. Well, it seems to me to make sense of this kind of hunger that human beings have, and that hunger can be creative or destructive somehow. But the word holy, without the W, to me seems to indicate that this incompleteness can't be corrected just by adjusting our experience on the level of our worldly life. That to say, like, sort of staying in our secular mindset, which many of us come from, probably not everybody, just needs adjusting. That maybe if we work in a different department in our office, or our house had an extra bedroom, or like all of these sort of adjustments. If your hair was different, life would be so much better. I mean, it's funny, some of the things that I start thinking, if only. But anyway, that those kind of rearrangements of the way of life that keeps giving rise to this sense of incompleteness, it's not going to work. It's that thing of trying the same thing and expecting different results every time. So the word holy seems to suggest that we have to look at a different mode of transformation, transformation, not a superficial one, not just this kind of adjustment of things on their own level. And to move towards something, this sense of wholeness or holiness, we are going to have to look at this transformation as being total, which means looking at all of our lives, which is the first aspect of the Buddhist path. So if we go back to the Buddha, he taught many people, and he taught many things. One of the things he taught was meditation, but he taught a lot more than that. He taught the basis for meditation, and if you read the early scriptures, the suttas, you'll often find the preliminaries to meditation are to do with communication, or how to live your life. When he's talking about the metta, who here has done the metta bhavana practice? Many of you. Yeah, so the loving kindness practice, which he taught. The first few verses, he just instructs you how to live. So this is one translation. He says, start as a capable person who is upright, gently spoken, flexible, not conceited. Then become contented and happy, with few worries and an uncomplicated life. Make sure your sense experience is calm and controlled, be duly respectful, and don't hanker after families or groups. Avoid doing anything unworthy that wiser people would criticise. So he's teaching, like, what to look for in an upright person, and then in this teaching he goes on to say, then sit down and meditate, and with this kind of heart wish, may all beings be well, and then that meditation gives rise into a deeper insight into reality. Yeah? So just in that one sutta, we go on this journey with these three stages: how to act, how to live your life. That when you do that leads to the kind of mind that can settle, and the kind of mind that can settle is lucid and can see deeper. Yeah. So you probably can experience this yourself. Just on a very crude level, when your mind is not settled, you can't get clarity and you can't see the way forward. And you've probably had this. So the more you sort of frantically you think about something, the less it's really clear. The less an answer is going to show itself. And that's just on a sort of basic how to make decisions kind of level of our minds. So yeah. We need lucidity in order to be able to see deeper, and that comes from a mind that can settle in meditation. Yeah, and just staying on the theme of wholeness, again looking to the life of the Buddha. So what happened was He had this existential crisis. He was born in the palace, and he realised again that this sense of incompleteness for himself was never going to be answered within his worldly, princely upbringing. And he saw a wanderer who'd renounced everything, and he saw that that was the way for him to explore what was next, what might actually answer these deep yearnings for a fulfilled life. So you see, the Buddha, then he snuck out the palace. He left in the middle of the night. He gave away all his princely clothes. He gave away everything. He renounced his status. He made a total decision of, like, I'm going to throw my whole life into this quest. He calls it the noble quest. So what he could have done quite easily is he probably could have summoned some spiritual teachers. There were plenty around. He could have said, I'm the great son of the Shakyans. Can you come and give me some teachings, and I'll learn to meditate in my palace? But he didn't do that. He had to leave. Now, not everybody that he taught did that, renounced everything. He also taught people he taught householders, he taught kings, queens, people at all levels of quite a sophisticated society in those days. And some of those people carried on with the responsibilities of their life. So he didn't say you actually, in order to make any progress, you have to leave everything behind. But what he did say is you have to have all of your actions informed by this quest for truth. And so he would teach people appropriately. He'd say, he'd teach rulers how to be just in their kingdoms. He'd teach friends how to communicate with one another, how to be dutiful to one's neighbours, all of that, in order to address the fact that I think what's at the bottom of this is that all our actions inform our states of mind, and that there's nothing that we do that doesn't do that. So, there's no part of our life that doesn't inform our states of mind. I think even our dreams, we think we're off the hook at night. But you wake up with a dream that's made you a bit uneasy. You know that that's not true, that will inform something. Yeah, so everything needs to be included in order to develop our minds. So and there are a lot of metaphors for. So I've chosen the insect one. That's one image, but we're going to move on. And the metaphor of the path is a traditional image. So I don't know, those of you who've been to Maitreya Bandhu's teaching meditation, and he's been looking at these words, the verses of the going for refuge. So who's been here? Who was? I kind of thought everybody would have been, but it doesn't matter. Not that. A few of you. A few. Anyway, he was talking about going for refuge. So that sort of response to that movement. Again, he's talking not about a set of ideas as a refuge or something, a metaphysical reality as a refuge. He's saying what we have to do is turn ourselves towards something that we have a sense of confidence in, and that's a movement, as if setting out along a path. Do you see that the path metaphor is very, it's used a lot actually in Buddhism. So we're looking today and next week on the threefold path. You might have also heard of the Noble Eightfold Path. And there's for example, there's a book called the Dharmapada, which is like the footsteps of the Dharma, like a path. So this kind of sense of a person moving towards something that probably can't see the end of the path. It's probably quite a long path. You probably might have known other people set off down it, don't know what's down it, but a sense of ourselves following a path. I think it's a really helpful metaphor. It's not the only metaphor that we can use. But it's like we're drawn on by something, whether it's something like pulling us or something, sense of like, I don't know, our own propulsion forward. You can sort of think about that, like how do you feel about the path of life? Yes, and so perhaps the simplest version of the path is the threefold path, which is Sila, Samadhi, Prajna. Yeah, Sila, Samadhi, Prajna. So Sila, well, I think Sila is what the Buddha was teaching when he was teaching the Metta Bhavana that I was just talking about. So it's about becoming a capable person who is upright, gently spoken, flexible, not conceited. It's that realm of action that's to do with how we relate to others. It's usually translated as morality or ethics, but I think, or virtue. I think those are possibly a bit loaded sometimes, those words, a bit, I don't know what you think, but it's quite hard to talk about goodness without sounding pious or something. And it's quite hard to sort of think about how do we direct our actions without sounding moralistic and say, do this, don't lie, but we have to think about it, and we have to think how our actions inform the next actions that we make, and inform our states of mind. So in Buddhism, we're always exploring the path, how we go forward, and then what that reveals next depends on how we've moved forward. So often it'll be the practice and then the fruit of that practice. And if you don't practice, if you don't bother, so you don't bother with sila, this way of being that's upright and gently spoken and not conceited. If you don't bother with that, then that will have consequences. So we're always talking about thinking about the path as what naturally leads, one thing naturally leading on to the other. If you naturally become more, let's draw out one of these points, gently spoken. Well, if you make effort to become more gently spoken, for example, lovely quality, isn't it? Like if you think about people who are gently spoken, that would be a nice thing to be around. If you make an effort to be more gently spoken, that will just become more natural, and then people will speak gently with you, and then that will become more and more possible. Do you see what I mean? So you put some effort in, and there'll be a fruit of that. And then and it says, then become contented and happy. As if that's a natural unfolding of the previous actions of being upright, not conceited, etc. Yeah. So I think whenever we're too concerned about, whenever we feel like the words like ethics, virtue, morality become a bit heavy, we need to reframe it so that it feels like a natural opening up towards a natural blossoming of something that I want to become more like. What Buddhism is saying is that there's this kind of natural response that we can listen to and educate, draw out, extend in order to make our lives more of the second one, more of that good feeling, more of the kind of wanting to connect or feeling connected or knowing that we are connected, more of that energetic sort of movement, or I like how Oscar put it, like just feeling like he's really arrived in his body. That's possible more and more of the time, and actually it's possible all of the time. So there's this lovely quality that I want to talk about. We don't talk about it very much, we sort of allude to it. It's called pramoda, or pramoda. It's the kind of delight that comes from a clear conscience. So the Buddha talked about this as a sort of a natural response to having a clear conscience. So the way it's described is it's sometimes translated as a great joy. And the source of that joy is this clear conscience, a lack of remorse, a kind of straightforwardness. And it's an easeful quality. It's a quality of mind or heart, let's say, that's described as being fresh, light and clear. And it gives rise, this is how it's spoken of, and I think we've sort of demonstrated that. It gives rise to great confidence and satisfaction, and even an arousal or release of energy. Yeah, so it's really attractive. I think this energy being released is that when we don't have a clear conscience, again we sort of feel divided. There's things that going on that are blocking our energy, or we don't want to look at. And if we don't want to look at things, we have to be we have to sort of circumvent them and find ways to not look at it. So pramoda is this natural upwelling of good feelings. And it's distinct from the thought, Akash Mitra and I were talking about this, it's distinct from the thought that I am a good person. Yeah, it's distinct from an idea of look at me, good. Yeah, I've done what people want, good. It doesn't come. The thought will, if there is a thought, it will come secondarily. It's a feeling that comes from that straightforward, interior straightforwardness. I think, it's got this quality of unity and harmony. So it makes us much more balanced in relation to the world. That's how I think it's sort of energetic, but balanced. When I was reflecting on it, I just felt very even in relation to the people around me. So pramoda is something we can sort of look for as a clue to what's going on in our mental states, and if it's not there, what to do about it. And especially in meditation, it's something you can sort of start to educate yourself around. I've had this quite a few times when I'm thinking of a particular incident where I can really see it in sharp contrast. So I sit this particular time, and it feels characteristic of me, sitting in meditation, mind nattering away. I suddenly realise I'm meditating, supposed to be. Like, how did I get here even? And then I just sort of noticed what I was preoccupied by, and it's just this kind of defensive rumination around something, and I kind of just went through it, and at the end I just thought, I could just I'm a bit ashamed about this thing, and I could just very straightforwardly tell the person that it's in relation to. Like, I don't need, that's it. It's so simple. And then I realised not only was that an idea, I was like, I could just easily do that, and that person would be perfectly happy to hear that, and it wouldn't be a big deal. So I sorted it. It's like I sorted it out in my mind, and I knew that as an action was completely straightforward and possible. Previously, it hadn't even occurred to me. I was more like just trying to hide from it. Just a bit of information that I was reluctant for whatever reason to share. And then, so I was like, oh great, I've sorted that out. And then I just felt this kind of leavening within me, like my body just much lighter, almost like sort of air rising up. I wouldn't be surprised if someone opened their eyes and I was, a few feet off the shining floor. And I think that we can just sort of detect that lack of it and just think, oh, is there something I'm avoiding? Can I just like in an uncomplicated way straighten this out? What is it that I'm hiding from? And someone was talking about shame, and that being something that, it's very often to do with how others see us. So we can, you can just think, okay, what if I wasn't so concerned about that? What does that allow? So it's not just. I think what I want to say is that that there are times when we've done something wrong, and sometimes we'll find that we've done something, like a bit further out of our usual wrongdoing than we'd like to admit is possible. So that, and we'll have our conscience will speak to us around that, and that's sometimes that's a bit more obvious, and then there's subtle ways that we have little subterfuges in our minds, and that might be less obvious. It might not be that we've done something wrong. It might be that we feel complicated around something, but that's usually because there's something that we're concealing from ourselves. So there's more subtle ways that we sort of prevent ourselves from experiencing this delight and unity of mind that we can look for. And I had this can be developed more and more, and ultimately, apparently, it's one of the 4 confidences of the Buddha. And I don't know what the other 3 is, but the first one is that there's nothing that he can be reproached for. His completely clear conscience, and that leads to this kind of a fearlessness in the world. I had an experience on a retreat last year. It was my ordination reunion. So when I got my name Kusalasara, it was an ordination retreat, and quite a few years ago, a bunch of women up in a retreat centre for 3 months in the Spanish mountains, and then last year was our reunion retreat, and I have to say far fewer of us made it to that, but it was a really good bunch of people, and we were just sort of talking about our lives in the last 10 years since we got ordained, and in the depths of that retreat, I had this experience of pramoda. I was like, I realised, not that I've never done anything wrong or never would, but with these women in this particular community, that anything could be sorted out and it would be fine. Like any difficulty, any confusion, or even a bit, if there was a bit of ill will, we could talk about it and it would be sorted out. And I had great confidence and delight actually in that experience of like my own ability and theirs. Sort of that coming together was sort of like a feeling of an ideal community. So it's not that we have to be perfect. It's more like we can enable ourselves to have a much more straightforward attitude to our conscience. Buddhism says that guilt is an unskillful mental state. So there's this prickling of remorse. It's like, oh, I regret that. We have to face up to that. But guilt, it describes as, I think guilt and shame hold us back. They hold us in the same place. They don't allow movement forward. They don't allow us to change our view of ourselves. So feeling guilty is that sort of like, not only have I done wrong, but I always will be wrong. And I'm always blameworthy or something, not allowing that sense of pride to uplift us. Buddhism is just always looking for the more positive mental state, and there's something interesting about remorse that's been pointed out. The sort of paradox is, so remorse in terms of it, that's actually helpful. So remorse and lack of remorse are both good. So if you have remorse and you deal with it in a straightforward way, that's creative response to your mind, and it shows a conscience, and it shows that you have values and wanting to move towards them. And if you have lack of remorse, not as in you're shameless and can do anything without caring, but as in a bright, clear conscience, then that's also good. It means that you're inhabiting these qualities more and more of sort of unified mind. Yeah, does that make sense? This whole area around the sort of naturalness of ethics, it's not an imposition on how we're supposed to behave. It's like how we can discover how we want to behave, and one of those ways is to follow this quality, or look for it more in our lives, as pramoda. Yeah. Yeah, and I think, yes, it develops. Let me just see if I've missed anything out. No, that's good. So we can develop it more and more. And it said, so that we've got the Buddha, who has nothing to be reproached about, and then we've got us who, just trying our best. And it's said that there's a level of practice or realization called stream entry, which is not enlightenment, but some way towards enlightenment, a sort of a deeper and sort of outstanding stage of realization towards what the Buddha saw. And it said that a stream entrant is just quick to apologize. So even someone at that level won't have perfect morals, won't be irreproachable, but will just really straightforwardly take responsibility for what they've done, and be easily say, I'm sorry, and make amends in whatever way. And that's something that we can quite easily sort of work towards. We might think enlightenment, that's quite far away. You might not, but I certainly do, for myself. But just thinking, okay, where can I take responsibility? Which also means, I think, a much more less blaming attitude. I think that would come with pramoda. Is this straightforwardness would be like, not putting blame for our own discomfort on other people, not habitually looking for a way to do that. Yeah, I think blame is usually a habit of trying to put our own discomfort or unhappiness or hurt on somebody else's plate. Yeah. So this quality of pramoda is free of that. And in terms of remorse, often when we're practicing meditation, we're being encouraged to notice the whole range of sensation, from neutral in the middle, difficult, painful sensation on one side, and remorse will be that. So if we're practicing that and facing towards it, we can make creative use of it. So it's that pain can alert us to danger, and in this case, if we've got a bad conscience, it can show us something that we can do something about. And then on the other side, we're often not quite able to enjoy pleasant things as well. So we've got neutral, painful sensation come into relation to that. Is it showing us something? But also pleasurable sensations in our meditation are sometimes a bit too much, and we can expand our ability to be aware of that as well. The more comfortable we are with this quality of joy, the great joy, the more alert we'll be to sullying it by being snappy, or whatever the things that we tend to regret are. We won't want that for ourselves. We want to feel connected more and more to people. Yeah. So, yeah, again, this is the practice of sila. Leads to, naturally unfolds into this feeling of pramoda. So pramoda isn't really a practice. Sila is the practice. Often it's talked about as beautiful morality. So making our minds and actions more beautiful. For me, that feels feels very, very appealing. To make our mind and actions more beautiful, and attuning ourselves to that, so the mind that's attuned to beauty will naturally become more beautiful. And in turn, it's the actions. The practice of sila is the actions and thoughts that are reflective and truthful, rather than ruminative and one-sided. So very often our thoughts are one-sided. They take in one point of view, our point of view, and not the whole. So and that leads to circular thinking. And the practice of sila is reflective, truthful. It's got this quality of innocence, not naivety, but innocence, to sort of straightforward relationship to the world at large. And it's the careful attunement of our own conscience to notice remorse, to act on it, rather than pile it on with shame and guilt and defensive attitudes. So, so that's how the remorse and the lack of it are both positive in Buddhism. Maybe I'll just get everybody. What's the time? Maybe I'd like to get you all to just get into pairs and really think about how you could cultivate more pramoda. What do you think you would need to do just to experience that brightness of mind a bit more? Like, what would your practice of sila, in other words, be? Is that a narrow enough question? Is that a focused enough question, or is that too? Do you want something? Yeah. Yeah, okay, good. Have you had enough time? Have you had enough time? Okay, good. So I hope that generated some ideas. Yeah, good. So just to finish the class, I'm going to spend a bit more time putting this quality of mind, pramoda, the practice of ethics, which sort of leads to the flowering of pramoda, into the context we've been talking about. I've been talking about the threefold path, and there are a few things around the path. So the threefold path. Well, it tells us that if we're ethically pure, the practice of meditation will lead us upwards through a sequence of higher and higher states of consciousness or states of mind, and that these can be used as the basis for a liberation that's so profound that we can't really imagine it from our current state. So that's what the Dharma teaches. This is what the Buddha taught. This is why it's so important. And it's broad, it's like a broad base, the practice of sila, I think, in that inquires into every part of our lives. It's a bit intrusive and sort of nosy in that way. Like, what's going on there? Why are you being a bit funny about, I don't know, money, lovers, food, all of these things. But if we can just be open to it, it allows this freedom. And actually, pramoda is a gateway to deeper states in meditation. So it's really important in that way, because it allows our minds this kind, more and more unity and energy and presence. It will allow us to stay more present as we meditate. But there's a little bit before that as well, and I think that's also important, because I was sort of saying about this that secularism isn't enough. What we need is a vision. I don't mean that as in I'm trying to tell you guys what we really need. It's like what the mind needs, what the mind looks to expand or to find its way out of this sense of incompleteness that I've been talking about, is a vision of another way of being. So, however that vision, it might be strong, it might be just sort of like an inkling that there's another way. It doesn't really matter, but that vision has to include the possibility of transformation, and a kind of confidence or faith that's possible. So in Buddhism, we have the image of the Buddha sort of representing that. And we talk often in Buddhism, we talk about views. So one view would be that that's not possible. That we're basically leopards that can't change our spots, and whatever habits of mind we've got, we just got to kind of protect the world from us, or just kind of get by. Yeah. So that would be a view that didn't include a vision of our own transformation, and I think it's sort of, you can make a joke about it, but it's quite easy. I often think, am I ever going to get rid of this way of being? As soon as you start thinking like that's not possible, then you make it not possible. But if you allow the possibility of transformation in, then you'll keep going. Yeah. So we need in order to really to practice sila well and effectively, we have to have a sense that we can change. Otherwise, we're using sila just as a way to make our lives a bit more easy or something, and quiet, a bit less turbulent. But the real practice of sila is an opening of the mind to deeper realities. So the heart, this image that I had at the beginning of the heart feeding itself on truth, and being transformed by that truth, becoming it. So that's what the practice of ethics is creating a mind that moves more and more towards that. But we need a glimpse of that vision already, and that vision might be. Vision's a grand word, and sometimes it's a grand experience, but it might just be like, I wonder if the Buddhist centre's got a bit more. I wonder what Buddhists think. I feel like there's more to life than than what I've received so far. When I was younger, I just had the sense that there was loads of wisdom available somewhere. I just had to kind of find it. I could see that, like looking at different art books, like, I don't know, there were so many different ways of seeing the world. Ancient civilizations had these beautiful expressions of, I don't know, maybe just beautiful expression, which would be completely different to another civilization. It's like, my vision of the world is so incomplete. I was going to say completely incomplete. It's so incomplete. I knew that I was missing out in a big way, and I sort of realised that Buddhism could show me much more. Why am I saying that? I wasn't planning to say that. Yeah. So anyway, So that's so it's us tuning into our sense of vision as well. This confidence or faith in something. There must be more that we can move towards. Will help us extend our practice of sila, not put a limit on it, which means that we can experience this quality of pramoda more and more as well. Which means, as I was saying, this is a doorway to a deeper experience in meditation, which is a doorway to deeper and deeper realization, seeing truths, and more liberation. So pramoda it's quite early on in the Buddhist path, actually. So there are many different formulations of the path. I've chosen the simplest, the threefold path. There's also the Noble Eightfold Path, and there's quite a lot of more detailed enumerations of the path, and as pramoda sort of it comes after this inkling of something. There's something more, and the practice of ethics, and it opens up to very, very delightful. The next natural flowering of mental states, if you can cultivate pramoda, is a very, very delightful experiences in meditation. Very, very joyful, energetic experiences, which then move on to calmer experiences, and just deeper and deeper, further and further towards what the Buddha would have experienced. Pramoda is significant because of that. It leads us from ethics into meditation, which then leads us to wisdom, which is where what we're going to be exploring more next week. So I think that's where we'll leave it. Well, except what I'd like us to do is finish with a meditation, but let's find a meditation posture, and then I'll talk about what we're going to do. Actually, before we do that, I just want to remind us of that image of the caterpillar. I'll just read it out again. It's not even, he doesn't even say caterpillar. That's my interpretation. The heart should have fed upon the truth as insects on a leaf, till it be tinged with the colour and show its food in the minutest fibre. So the Buddhist version of this image is the Buddha. It's said that his complexion was completely clear, his skin was lustrous, and that's why Buddhist figures have all of these kind of signs and marks. It's to express the fact that when the Buddha became enlightened, his whole being became not filled with, but became beauty, became wisdom, compassion. His every minutest fibre was filled with this quality of truth. And so that's why he's depicted golden. That's why he's depicted with this beautiful, he's always got beautiful posture, symmetry, grace. That's the Buddhist vision of the heart that has fed itself upon the truth.